Hello and welcome to the Homeless Consultants channel. My name is Paul B. I am the Homeless Consultant. And today I have for you on this channel a Whodunnit. Whodunnit? Whodunnit? Who key scratched my car along almost the entire driver's side? Who did it? The person who did it surely thinks they got away with it. Let's find out whether that's true. Here's what happened, folks. I came out of work this afternoon, went to my car, looked at the door, and noticed that there were these very heavy key scratches going down the driver's side door and also on the front quarter panel. They were so deep they actually went into the big dent that is there because, you know, the suspension's so bad on this car, it's caused the front to dent. Huge, deep, thick key scratches. So I took a bit of a closer look and I saw that before the key scratches started, there were a whole bunch of these just regular scratches that were almost perpendicular to the key scratch. They were on an angle, as if somebody had rubbed up against the car without really knowing it and caused those while they were doing the key scratch, and then maybe they pulled their body away so it didn't do that down the whole length of it. So the question is, who done it? Who key scratched this beautiful car that I call home, the place that I live in, because the state of Minnesota did absolutely nothing to prevent me from becoming homeless and did absolutely nothing to get me out of it. Let me repeat that. The state of Minnesota made me homeless and has done nothing to get me out of it. Remember that, please, as we look at who done it. So if you're going to investigate a mystery like this, how do you go about it? The advantage that I have in this particular case, if you can call it an advantage, is that I live in this car. I don't just drive it here and there and go into my home. I live in this car. As I've told you many, many times. Look at my recent video, which cordless fan did I choose? I talk about it. I go into work for 8.5 hours a day or more, roughly 9 hours a day. The other 16 hours a day, I'm in this car. Unless I have to go somewhere to get food or go to the bathroom, I'm sitting in this chair that you see me sitting in here for the last 6 years. Because of the state of Minnesota, I just want to point that out, in case I haven't already. You see, they refuse to enforce the law on my behalf. They do it for other people, for their own friends, but they didn't do it for me. So I had to lose my home. And then they refuse to do the job that they accept a paycheck for doing to benefit me, although they'll do it for other people, like their friends and such. You see. State of Minnesota. Who done it? I wonder who scratched my car. Let's find out. Since I live in the car, I am acutely aware of pretty much everything to do with this car, including what's going on with the car when I'm not in it, for the most part. Most people out there, you go to the store, you get into your car, you start it up, you drive to work, or you drive to the store or whatever, you shut the door and you just don't even think about it twice. You go inside, you know, I mean, if someone did smash into the car or steal it or whatever, you've got insurance. And you don't have, like, everything you own sitting inside the car. So, you know, so what? If it gets stolen or it gets damaged, whatever, insurance will take care of it, right? You don't think twice about it. Every time I step away from this car, and by that I mean every time I step 1 foot away from this car, my radar is on full tilt, watching this car, never going so far away that I can't see this car, at least very frequently. And if I do go into a place, I park in such a way that I can see the car from inside most of the time. Not always, most of the time. And I do. I keep going back. So, for example, you know, if I were to go into a Walmart, which is a really big box store, I'm going to go inside. If there's a couple things I need, I'll go get one, and then I basically come back to the front and I go look out at my car to make sure it's okay. And then I go do the other one. Because this is my home. This is everything I have. For someone to key scratch my car is equivalent to someone coming up and painting graffiti on your house. It's a pretty low-class, childish, juvenile, frankly, monumentally stupid thing to do. In all my years, including when I was a child, by the way, I don't know if it ever occurred to me, hey, I think I'll take a sharp object and go rub it against a, several $1,000 paint job on someone's vehicle to pull their paint off so they have to spend thousands of dollars or what have you. I don't think that's ever even occurred to me as a possible option that I would want to do that. And there's some people out there I'm not particularly fond of, such as the 5 million Minnesotans who have sat and watched me be homeless, did nothing to stop it, and did nothing to get me out of it. But it doesn't even occur to me to go out and key scratch their car over it. Why would I do that? So, it's never once in my life, even when I was an itty-bitty child, occurred to me to go out and, even with people I don't like, to go out and damage their property. It isn't something I want to do. I don't get the reasoning there. I like justice. That's what this channel's about. Trying to get justice, because if I didn't mention it before, the state of Minnesota made me homeless and did nothing to get me out of it. I wonder who scratched my car. Let's find out. Since I'm aware of everything that goes on with this car, I'm also very aware of where I am at all times. You know, I have to move around all the time. I have to keep moving this car from one location to another so I don't get harassed by people, so I'm not drawing attention to myself, and so the police, the Minnesota government employees, do not come up and waste my time, you know, making contact and checking my ID for warrants, as if the first 100 times hasn't finally answered that question. I don't understand these people. I don't get it. You'd think if there was a warrant out for me, they would have caught it the first 100 times they did this to me, but no, maybe this time for sure. Maybe this time. So, I'm very aware of everything I'm doing, and I'm just aware of my environment. If you watch these videos, you see me all the time pointing out things that you don't see because you're not paying attention. But I have to see them. I'm stuck sitting in this car. I have to be aware of my environment. So, let's get on with this. If we're going to find out who done it, who scratched my car, the end point for this was today at, it was about 5 p.m. About 5 p.m. That's when I discovered the key scratches when I went outside. When I went outside to my car, it was really obvious that it was scratched just like that. I mean, you couldn't miss it. It just stood out like a sore thumb. Now, you might think, well, hey, Paul, then, gee, what about the last time you went up to your car? Didn't you see the scratches then? It's like, well, actually, no. You see, because I live in the car. I never leave the car. So if we trace things backwards, here's what we come up with. This is Sunday at 5 p.m. If we go back to last week, Tuesday, I'm sorry, forget about that. I'm just not going to waste time with that. Last Tuesday, last Wednesday, let's go to Thursday. Thursday, okay, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, today. So it happened somewhere in here because on Thursday, here's the reason I know this, because I just happened to have filmed the outside of my car on Thursday. I do a lot of things to protect myself and to take precautions. I just happened to have filmed my car, and guess what? No scratches on the car. Nice clear view, no scratch in the dent up front, no scratch along here, none of that stuff on there by my door. Right outside here. That was at about 1 p.m. on Thursday. So the key scratching happened between 1 p.m. on Thursday and 5 p.m. on Sunday. Question is, who done it? Now, because I'm so aware of where I've been all this time, it was really easy for me to just put all that, collate that together, and trace where I've been and where this could have happened. Thursday, after I filmed the car, the next place I went where I got out of the car was I went into Dollar Tree. I went into a Dollar Tree, wasn't there long, 5 minutes tops, just grabbed a little bit of food for work. I parked my car out in the middle of Timbuk 3 because I don't want people pulling in. I had my laptop computer out. It was kind of shoved in, but it wasn't in the bag. So I didn't want anybody parking next to me. I parked out in the middle of nowhere, but the parking lot was a bunch of so-called nice businesses. Like suburban middle-class people getting their fingernails manicured and things like that. Not exactly the kind of people who just walk out in front of a strip mall where every business can watch them go over to a car sitting by itself and key scratch it. It's highly unlikely that it happened there, folks. Highly unlikely. Plus, when I came out of Dollar Tree, I was fumbling with all these bags, which I always do, right? I have to repackage them to take them into work, put them in my carry bag. So outside my car, I was outside my car fiddling with that stuff. I would have seen all this stuff. Again, if anything changes with this car, it stands out like a sore thumb to me. I know this car like the back of my hand. There were no scratches on the car. The next place I went was work. And at work, I parked at about halfway down the parking lot, again, to get away from these people. I've told you about the people who work in this professional business park I'm in, what kind of quality professionals they really are, how I pick up their garbage that they dump all over this place all the time, and how they stalk me and do incredibly creepy things to me. I've told you that in many videos. Not the people I work with in my business, but these other businesses, these professional businesses. So I park away from these people because they scare the daylights out of me. They're creepy. They're strange. They're weird. So I park away from them. But I'm still parked right where I can see them from my work. Right out the window. Beeline, right for it. By parking that far away, my whole car becomes visible. Halfway through the night, when all these people left, I moved my car so that it was the car nearest to the building, basically right in front of the window. Okay? So if anybody were to try to key scratch my car at that point, they would have to stand in front of this huge multi-story glass building where everybody can see out and they can't see in, and they would have to do it basically with me looking right at them. And you'd have to ask the burning question, why would you do that? If there's any car you're going to scratch in this lot, why would you do it to the one car that's nearest the window, on the side of the window where everybody in this building could see you? I doubt it happened there. I could be wrong. Minnesotans are crazy. Watch my videos to learn this. They could do something that epically stupid. I don't think so in this case. I'm just guessing. I don't think so. But that's where I was. After that, when I got out of work, I came out and it was nighttime. So I couldn't see the door, so it wouldn't stand out to me. Plus, I was fighting off bugs. Remember, it's 94 degrees at night. I got in the car, I drove down here to the parking garage, and I was in the car the rest of the night sleeping. Well, not the rest of the night sleeping, I was in the car the rest of the night. I slept for about 3 hours, which is about what I usually get every night. It is possible that someone came into this garage while I was sleeping, but a couple problems with that. I've been down here more or less, not every day, but most days for more than a year now. And you know what? There's really nobody who ever comes into this place, except for those creeps once in a while, but they do it at different times of the day, not in the middle of the night. The closest thing I've had to it actually was about a week ago. some weirdo with a little spandex and the helmet on his bicycle. He comes riding his bicycle in here, makes a beeline straight for me until he sees that I'm in the car, and then he suddenly turns and follows the path just la-di-da-di-da like he belongs in here. He rides his little bicycle over there, doesn't even look at me anymore, rides over to the stairwell, picks up his bicycle, and goes up the stairwell with it. And then about 20-30 seconds later, I see him cruising down the hill and turning right, which means he went right back where he came from, except to get up to the area with a bicycle where you're going to do that, you have to climb a hill that is so steep that I can't even climb it without carrying a bicycle. I'll just fall right back down it. Which means that somebody deliberately wanted so badly to get in here with their bicycle that they carried their bicycle up that almost a sheer cliff. I wonder why. And they made a beeline for my car until they found out that someone was in it. Was it that person came back later and key scratched my car? Well, if they did it while I was sleeping, and they would be about 8 inches away from my body as I'm sleeping in this car. And if you've ever seen metal or heard metal on metal, I have to presume it's going to make a noise in the dead of night. Also, anyone who walks up here at night is going to trigger these lights, and this place lights up like a Christmas tree. If I wave my hands too much, I'm in peril of these lights flipping on. And that means everyone in this whole area out here, anybody out there can just see in here. And if someone was coming up and messing with my car, key scratching, you would think they would at least be paranoid about being seen. That was Thursday night. The next morning, Friday, I get up very early. I drive out to a particular strip mall. I sit in the car, because what else am I going to do? The state of Minnesota does not provide any facilities for the homeless. It was about 94 degrees. I have my new cordless fan, so I sat in the car and I just sweated. That's all I did, was just sweat and suffer for many hours. From about, it was about 4 in the morning. From about 4 in the morning until 8, I just sat there and sat there awake. Nobody came up and key scratched my car. Then I moved my car over to a gas station where there's an internet access because there was a sale on a piano. I bought a piano, electronic piano for the computer, so I can play it with a little keyboard. Beautiful rendering of a Steinway Model D piano. I got a thing for like 20 bucks. The thing's 7 gigabytes. So I had to go somewhere to download 7 gigabytes to get this piano. So I pull into this gas station. Now the gas station, I've been there many times to use the internet, and sometimes the people know me at the gas station. And I'll sit out there and use the internet. It's one of the places I'll go to use the internet. Something's a little different this time though. They've been doing construction at this intersection. Don't know why, don't know what they're doing, but for about 3 weeks they've had the place all torn up and just routing traffic every which way. And the workers, many of the workers there have parked their pickup trucks basically where customers for this business usually park, or where I usually park when I'm using the internet. So I had to pull in, further into the business itself than I usually do. I usually try to park away from it. And I parked, a couple spaces away from the last truck in line while these workers are out there doing their thing. And, wearing they're dressed by the government. I guess you have to reach an age when your mother stops dressing you, right? And then the government starts dressing you. So they're all wearing these orange and yellow jackets as their government told them to do, and apparently they just simply obeyed. So they're out there milling about, not entirely working all the time. That's a whole nother story. But they're looking at me funny quite often as they pass by, just look. And as the hours went on, because 7 gigabytes took 4 hours to download. 4 hours, folks. I was horrified. Because throughout those 4 hours, the sun came up, and this place became an absolute sauna. absolutely brutal, the fan notwithstanding. I had the fan right next to me blowing as hard as it can. It didn't matter. I mean, I was just in pain. My arm and leg just felt like they were on fire. But this internet connection was so slow. It took 4 hours to download that piano. So while I'm out there, these MDOT workers, Minnesota Department of Transportation, they're out there working, quite often just standing or on their phone or what have you, talking to each other. But that's government work in Minnesota. I get paid to actually do a job, but Minnesotans, it's just kind of a different thing with them. So I was in this car the whole time, and they're looking at me funny as if I've invaded their space or something, whereas I see it as, well, for a year or more, I have come out to this place fairly regularly to use the internet for a while here and there and different dates and stuff. The people inside know me. It seems to me that you're the one who's displacing everybody. You're the ones who are parking your vehicles where normally customers park. Of course, they can't do that now. They might go to a different store, for example, because you have chosen to take up all the parking spots in this business. And if you have a right to do that, then anybody has a right to do whatever they want there. So why are you looking at me funny? I don't look at you funny because you're working. I presume you have a reason to be there, and that's why you're parked there. Big deal. But they were looking at me funny. Gee, I wonder if it has anything to do with the condition of the car. It's all rusted out. That I've got, bags and things just like this, just stacked up in the car, that I'm disheveled. And then I'm sitting there for 4 hours. Perhaps. I don't know. At one point in those 4 hours, I went inside. I walked away and I went inside the gas station. I used the bathroom. I got some beverages and some chicken. Really good chicken. So I was in there for probably 7 minutes, which is a long time for me. And this is one of those extremely rare instances where I can't see my car when I'm inside the business. But oddly enough, I thought to myself, well, here's some working men. Here's some men who work for a living. I'm always talking about how my work, taxes, pays for all these Minnesotans to get their stimulus checks so they don't have to have a job and they can live in their nice comfortable homes while I live in a car. And I'm thinking, well, here's some honest working men out here. If I go inside for a few minutes, they're not going to just sit there and watch somebody bust into my car, right? Seems plausible. So I felt okay in this instance having the car in a place where I can't see it. So I went inside. I did my bathroom thing. I got the beverages, got the chicken, and I came back out to the car. Now when I came out to the car, I wasn't looking for anything, but it was so hot and so bright such that, as you look at the car, you got the sunlight bouncing off the windshield or off the window here so that I can hardly see. So I'm not able to see what's going on with the door. It just wasn't something I was paying attention to at that time. I had the chicken, I had the drinks, and I was just trying to get into the car. So I wasn't looking for anything, and I really couldn't see it because it was so blinding out there. I mean, just brutally bright, hot sun. So I got into the car. I ate my chicken. I was probably there for another, hour and a half after that until this piano finally downloaded. And then I started up the car, and I left. Where I went to was it was a strip mall just down a little ways. I parked right out in front of the business I was going into, so that my driver's door is facing the business. Anybody in the business or the businesses around it, just looking out their full front window, can see my car. Again, it's a place that is frequented by these, well, this is for Minnesota, but, what a normal state would consider, decent middle-class people. So there wasn't anything going on. Plus, I could see my car the whole time because when I'm in the building, that's why I parked there. I didn't see anybody go near my car. I don't have any reason to believe someone would. I wasn't in there that long. When I came out, I wasn't looking for anything on the car, but I could see the car. The glare wasn't there parked in that orientation. I don't remember. I just don't remember. I wasn't looking for that. I'm trying to think, actually. Did I buy something? Ah, I did. Okay, so I had the bag. That's why. That's why. So I went to the back of the car, and as I came up, I'm approaching the car where instead of facing the car where I would see the scratch, I'm coming up from the side and opening the door. That's why. Okay. So I'm not going to see a scratch on there unless I'm really looking for it. And frankly, I was really in a hurry to get to work. So, in other words, there could have been a key scratch there at that time. I would have missed it. I wasn't looking for it, and I wasn't at the right direction. Next, I went to work, where I parked my car in the lot. Same thing, parked it way down at the end, and then halfway through the night, I moved the car to where it's the first car in the lot, right outside the window. The whole time I can see it, and this is a bunch of professionals. They say so themselves. They call themselves professionals. After work, and this is Friday, after work, I came down to the parking garage and did the same thing. You know, worked on the computer for a bit, passed out, whatever, for about 3 hours. And that was that. So the next morning was Saturday. Saturday, I get up at, I think 5. Or, I'm sorry, I didn't get up at 5. I left here at 5. I went to another parking lot that I go to. It's another strip mall. And I sat in the car the whole time. I never got out of the car. So even though I was there for about 2.5 hours, I never got out of the car. Nobody key scratched my car. Next, I went to a gas station to get, no, I didn't get gas. I just went to the bathroom and I got their chocolate chip cookies, which are really good. And so the bathroom takes about 30 seconds. I move really fast with that. I don't mince words. Plus, I was going to work, so, you know, I could clean up better at work than I could there. So I basically just urinated. I went and got the cookies, which is really easy. Just grab them, and I went and paid for it. All the time I'm walking with the cookies, paying for it, I can see my car. This place was absolutely packed with people. Again, it was what most states would consider good, decent, middle-class people. Well-educated. Not the type you expect to go around key scratching a car. The way I was parked and the way that these lanes are set up at this gas station, if somebody had walked up to my car close enough to key scratch and walk down the whole edge, it would have been really, really bizarre. And there would have been a whole bunch of people who at least potentially could have seen it. It was buzzing that morning. Apparently everyone's getting ready to go out for their Saturday. I didn't see anybody anywhere near my car in the times I did look at it, and it just doesn't make any rational sense that in that environment somebody, for no reason whatsoever, would just go up to a random car and key scratch. It doesn't make any sense. I could be wrong. Then I drove to work, and I parked the car right by the window, because on Saturday I'm the only one there. And the whole day I didn't see anybody come in this place. Nobody. Now, when I got out on Saturday, I got to think this one through a bit. When I got out on Saturday, let's see, it was, I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, okay, now I remember. It was not dark yet, but when I leave work, because I have the big book bag, I always walk around to the passenger side to put the book bag in, and then I walk back along this way. So when I do that, it's the same as at that store. You know, I unlock it with the remote, and I reach over and grab the door. I'm not facing the door where I would see something like that. I'm not looking for it. So it could have been key scratched by then. I would not have noticed it, even though it was light out. It's just not something I was looking for, and I wasn't oriented to see it. I got in the car, I drove down to the garage, and I was there the whole night again. That was Saturday night. This morning, Sunday morning, about 4 a.m., I got up, or why do I keep saying got up? I never get to sleep. I only get like 3 hours of sleep. I left the parking garage. I drove down to an outhouse because I had to go to the bathroom so badly. There's an outhouse down there. Nobody around. I was in the outhouse for maybe 20 seconds, and I came out. There wasn't a human being in sight. Nobody key scratched my car in the dead of night right next to this outhouse out in the middle of nowhere. I promise you that. From that point on, I went and I parked at another parking lot where I do, and I worked on my computer. I did some audio recording of things for another video, and then I left and I came back to work. When I got to work, I parked the nearest to the window, because again, I'm usually the only other person here. Actually, one of my other coworkers did come into work. He parked near me, but kind of facing the other direction, you know, not right next to me. And he actually sits right next to that window, almost, not quite facing, but I mean, he's right there, right? And if anybody had been there all day long, anywhere near his car, it would have raised his flag. So if anyone came near my car, they would look like it's going near his car, and it would have raised his flag. And he's just a sweetheart of a guy. He's not someone who's going to key scratch my car. He's not from Minnesota. Of course, I have to mention that. He's not a native Minnesotan. He's a really nice guy. And of course, I can see out as well. I can see the whole time, and there was nothing. Sorry about that, folks. I had a disruption over there. So I'm in work today. I can see out, and I'm always watching my car anyway. My coworker is there. He's even closer to things than I am, and his car is parked near mine, so if anything's going on anywhere near our cars, he would see it. And again, who would be stupid enough in broad daylight to come out and walk on the very side of a car that is facing the windows of the owner of the car in front of this giant glass building where 1,000 people could be watching him and key scratch that side of the car? It doesn't make any rational sense. My coworker left shortly before I did, and then I left, and that's when I noticed the key scratch. I'm sorry, key scratches. Several of them. I gotta find my mouse. I don't know where my mouse went. There it is. Okay. So that's what happened between Thursday, when I filmed the car and know for a fact that those scratches were not there, and when I found the scratches. So let's look at this a little more closely. All right? Here are the facts. This is what is known in this whodunit of ours. Let me make this blue tinted again so the color doesn't change on my face here. Here's the known facts of the case. There were no scratches on this car Thursday at 1 p.m. Those key scratches were not there, period. I have a film of it, folks. It's a given. On Sunday at 5 p.m., the scratches were there. Therefore, ergo, the scratches were introduced between 1 p.m. on Thursday and 5 p.m. on Sunday. The next fact is that there are a whole bunch of secondary, what appear to be unintentional scratches that go, if you're key scratching in this direction, these scuffs go like on an angle like this, and it looks like someone dragged something along the car. Now, I don't know about you, but in this day and age when it's, in these recent days when it's 90 to 100 degrees every day, I doubt people are walking around wearing scuba gear or, full-on hunter's outfits or anything. Most people I see out there are wearing as few clothes as they possibly can get away with. Shorts, sandals, a tank top. So you tell me, what exactly are they wearing that is going to drag against the car and make those unintentional scuffs? I can't think of anything. A t-shirt isn't going to do it. They drag something along that. Unless, for some reason, they're carrying a big bag and the bag somehow gets jammed between them and my car, and they actually drag it along a long part of my car without realizing it before they take it away. It doesn't make sense, folks. Whatever created those unintentional secondary scuffs was part of their clothing. It had to have been. Because whoever did it walked up to the car and they just did it as quick as they could and they went away. And they probably, when they first touched the car, when they were first introduced to the car, They had their clothing scraping up against the car, and then as they realized it, they pulled away as they were scraping, and that left only the key scratch for the rest of it. That's a fact. The next fact is this. When I discovered the scratches tonight at 5 p.m., I took macro photos of it, and these are very clean, new scratches. The paint is still peeled up. You know, if you look at it very closely, like microscopically, the paint is still peeled up. It hasn't even worn off yet. And yet, there are a couple areas that have a bit of corrosion and rust already. Now, if the scratches had to have happened sometime in the last 3 days, you know, later Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or today, if there's already corrosion in there, then it probably didn't happen today. You're not going to get rust and corrosion that fast. It possibly could have happened yesterday on Saturday, but not likely. It very well could have happened on Friday. 2 days in this climate is enough for it to get that little bit of corrosion that's there. And then the same thing for Thursday. That's a fact. Again, another fact is that up until today, Sunday, it has been the tail end of a 3-week heat wave. Extraordinary heat. Just can barely breathe. Just melting heat. 90 to 100 degrees. Nobody's wearing heavy clothing that could scuff against that car. Now, given the fact that I'm always in this car, which is what the key scratcher probably didn't realize, I'm always in this car when I'm not at work, except for those few little times that I leave. Since I know exactly where I was from Thursday until now, this is a fact. There are only a few possibilities of where the key scratch could have been introduced. Number one, it could have been introduced when I parked at Dollar Tree and I went inside on Thursday. However, that is highly unlikely for the reasons I stated before. Those aren't the kind of people who scratch a random person's car. It was out in the middle of nowhere in front of an entire strip mall where X dozen number of people could have been staring at the person doing it. It doesn't make any rational sense. And I'm only in there for about 7 minutes, if that. Maybe 5 minutes. Not likely. Number two is my workplace. It could happen at my workplace. Well, in theory, it could be somebody who came into our workplace who doesn't belong here. But again, I watch for that all day and I can see it and I never saw it. And again, does it make any rational sense that somebody would come in and, for what, to key scratch my car? Especially when most of that time I'm parked right in front of the window of this big glass building where we can see out but they can't see in. Doesn't make sense. However, that first day, Thursday, I was parked at the end of the lot, and on that particular day I had several cars that parked right next to me, which I usually don't have. And I saw a couple of people milling about, but they looked like they were just talking. You know, like one of them was getting ready to leave and the other's talking. They were talking about busyness or whatever. They're professionals, if you haven't heard. They say so themselves. You know, the people who leave all the trash out here that I have to pick up because no one else will. Watch my videos. Watch my video, Fresh Garbage for the Homeless. You can watch me do a garbage run here, picking up after these housed professional Minnesotans. The homeless guy, he's the one picking up their trash. Anyway, while they blame the homeless for dumping their trash everywhere, that's the point I'm trying to make, but I'll let you watch that video. It could have happened in the workplace. It could have. Okay? And for the first couple nights, it was actually dark for about an hour before I left. So in theory, yes, somebody could have come in here. But again, I know this place well. I'm the only person in our business who's been here for the last year and several months. I'm the only one who pays attention here. I know more about what goes on here than any other person in this building, including the management, by a long shot. Folks, the odds of somebody random coming in here and key scratching That door, the one that's facing the windows, it just doesn't make sense. But it's possible. The next one is when I'm down here sleeping, because every one of these nights I've been sleeping in this garage, right where I'm sitting now. For that to happen, somebody would have to come in here, which again, over the last year and a half or so, I haven't really seen happen at all. I am the only vehicle down here for the last year. So, quite a coincidence. If they come in here, they're going to trigger all these lights so that this place becomes like Times Square. So everybody along all that real estate out there could see in here. And even if it's 3 in the morning, if you're about to do something that's illegal like that can get you in a lot of trouble, especially when the police are often sitting here parking, watching for cars, the last thing you're going to do is go out at 3 in the morning just to key scratch a car 8 inches away from where somebody who might have a gun is sleeping. It doesn't make sense, folks. Without waking me up. Remember, my senses are really acute when it comes to being in this car. If anything comes near this car, I just wake up. I don't think it happened while I was sleeping. The next one is, the next opportunity was when I went into that gas station to use the bathroom and to get the chicken and the drinks. When I was parked next to those MDOT workers. That was about 7 minutes or so that I was in there. It could have happened there. It's the one time in all of this where the car was out of my sight. Completely. I couldn't see it. Period. The next one would be the Dollar Tree. I don't know if I mentioned this one actually, but I went to a different Dollar Tree and I had gone in. I just, actually what I got 2 breakfast sandwiches and about 4 of those drinks. But again, I was parked out in the middle of nowhere. I could see right through the whole store. I could see my car, and I kept my eyes on it. And I never saw anybody even near the car while I'm in line to pay for it. I mean, perfect view. I mean, it's just right there. I didn't see anybody around it, and I don't see how it happened there. The next one would be the next day on Saturday morning. After I sat in the car, I went to that gas station. Okay, and I went into the bathroom and got the cookies. Again, I was only in for, what, I was probably in there for 3 minutes maybe total, if that. I didn't have to wait in line to pay for the cookies. I mean, it was just a short shot. Most of the time I was there, I could see the car and I was watching it. I'm always watching the car. There was nobody anywhere near the car. There were all kinds of people pumping gas and stuff, getting ready for their Saturday. Folks, it doesn't make any rational sense that somebody would stand in front of all these people out there and just decide to key scratch a random car. It doesn't make any sense. Hey, what do you know? From Thursday to Sunday, those are the only possibilities that exist. There are no others, folks. Every other moment of every other day, of every one of these days, I was sitting in this seat with my shoulder about 4.5 inches away from where that key scratched my door. And nobody scratched my door while I was sitting in here. So now let's ask the question, what are the reasonable possibilities of all those possibilities? Because a bunch of those just are not reasonable. You know, the gas station where all the people were, or it just isn't reasonable. The dollar store outside a place where people go and pay $75 to get a manicure. Those just aren't the kind of people who go out and randomly key scratch some random car that's sitting by itself in full view of an entire strip mall. It doesn't make any sense, folks. There's only 2 reasonable possibilities between Thursday and when I found the scratches. My workplace and those MDOT workers. And let me refresh your memory. MDOT stands for Minnesota Department of Transportation. In other words, it's the Minnesota government. While getting a key scratch here in my workplace is a possibility, the odds of it happening are not that good. Yes, these so-called professionals are rotten people. They're just bad people. They dump garbage all over the place. They have incredible osteo-phobia against the homeless, but All Minnesotans are osteophobic, including people who work for the Minnesota Department of Transportation. That's what I've been putting in these videos all along. Minnesota is an extremely racist state. You may have noticed that over the last year and a half. Minnesota is an incredibly osteophobic state. These people hate the homeless. They go on TV and they talk about, oh, we help the homeless, we're charitable, good-hearted, neighborly, we're the best people on the face of the earth, bar none. But when the camera gets turned off, they reveal their true colors. These people hate the homeless, and they leave people like me out to die for 6 years living in this car. Given the fact that I was in there at work, able to see my car the entire time, except, you know, every once in a while I go to the bathroom, of course, but let's be reasonable, folks. This is a huge business park out in the middle of nowhere with another huge business park next to it. None of it's open on the weekend. I'm the only one here. I'm the most acutely aware of this environment. I know I'm more aware of this environment probably than the combined awareness of every single of those 500 people who work in this building, who are oblivious to everything going on around them. Folks, I don't see how it's possible my car got scratched right in front of my eyes in this business. And I don't understand who would make a trip into a closed business park to go key scratch the only car in the lot, or in the case of today, one of 2 cars, on the very side of the door that is right next to the window to a gigantic glass building. It doesn't make any sense. And that leaves only one possibility that is truly reasonable. And remember, every single minute of every day is accounted for here. Every single minute. The only time that makes any sense that somebody had the opportunity, and possibly even in some twisted mind, a motive to key scratch some random stranger's car, was when I left that car for about 7 minutes in the care of those good working men for the Minnesota Department of Transportation. The ones who were looking at me funny because I was invading their space. Oh my gosh, there's a homeless guy parked, oh, I don't know, 20 feet away from our cars. They're cars that really shouldn't be there because they were taking up all the spaces so that these businesses couldn't have customers parked there. But they're the only ones since Thursday who've been looking at me funny, walking by and sneering and stuff like that. Ew, a homeless person. Remember, Minnesotans are very hateful people. They're racist and they're osteophobic. They hate the homeless. Out of this, from Thursday to Sunday, who in any of these possible times, I'm looking through it, who in any of these possible times could plausibly walk right alongside my car without drawing attention to themselves? If you did it at the gas station, you're drawing attention to yourself. It doesn't make any sense. To just walk along somebody's car and then go somewhere else, it doesn't make any sense. That would creep anybody out. To come into an empty business park doesn't make any sense. At the Dollar Tree, when I'm parked out in the middle of nowhere, someone just walks all the way over to another person's car, walks right along, touching their car, and then leaves. Folks, every one of those is completely out of place. The only one who could walk right next to my car like that without anybody batting an eye about it are these yellow and orange jacketed Minnesota Department of Transportation people who were milling all about my car, working on construction over there, parking their truck over there, parking their trucks over there. They're the only ones who could walk that close to my car and do something like that without even having to fear that anybody would look at them as strange for being that close to my car. Now, if you've watched my videos and you understand what's going on here, when I say I'm homeless because Minnesota made me homeless, well, Minnesota passed all these laws, against, things like terrorism and noise laws and things like this. But when my neighbors terrorized me and had this incredibly loud booming, building shaking violence 24 hours a day for years, turning my home into just a living nightmare. Nobody in Minnesota would enforce those laws. For me, they would do it for their friends. You see, if the police chief's brother had that problem, they come down and they lay the hammer hard on those neighbors. If the governor had that problem, somebody's going to help him. But when it happens to me, who's not even a Minnesotan, I'm a transplant, no, folks, they didn't do anything. They just let me suffer in that kind of a nightmare. And then my landlord illegally displaces me from my home instead of the people who violated the lease and broke the law. And then as I went from attorneys, the police, the city council, all the way up to the governor's office, not one Minnesotan would do anything to help me, prevent me from becoming homeless. And after I became homeless, they did nothing to help me get out of homelessness, even when they accept a paycheck to do just that, such as the fraud known as social services. Minnesota Department of Transportation is a part of that very same government. Is it possible, is it plausible that the kind of people working for MDOT, for example, if it's a Minnesota government agency, they're going to hire people who, just like any other business, you're going to hire people who are kind of like you are, right? You're not going to hire someone who's different than you. But I just established that Minnesotans are rotten to the core. They're just bad people. It's a cult. That's what this channel is about. Well, if you're a cult that is racist and osteophobic, isn't it possible that as you hire people and you decide who you're going to fire and who else you're going to hire, and as you build your crew, your work crew for the roads here, that over time it's going to become like you are, like this government is, the government that made me homeless and kept me homeless, the government that has done so much to hurt me over and over and over and over again. Doesn't it seem plausible that the Department of Transportation also would end up with employees who are like that instead of like good and decent and intelligent adults? One of the 10 Commandments is, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." Many people interpret that as saying, don't lie. Strictly speaking, that's not what it says. It says, don't bear false witness against a neighbor. In other words, you do not accuse someone else of doing something they did not do. You do not lie in an effort to misrepresent what another person is or what their character is. So for that reason, I am not going to come out and say that I know for certain that these MDOT employees, or one of them, key scratched my car. What I will say is this. Given that Minnesota agencies from the very bottom to the top over the last, 10 years, really, 6 years of being homeless and 4 years of being tortured in my home, in all that time, not one Minnesota agency has ever done their job or ever done one thing to help me. I'm going to challenge the Minnesota Department of Transportation. You grab those guys. I'm going to tell you where this happened when I tell you about this video. You grab those guys and you grab their keys and you do a little forensic testing on their keys and look for the one that has the blue automobile paint on it. I dare you to do that, MDOT, and see what you find. And do it quickly before the evidence is gone. Because by my reckoning, this happened 2 days ago. I'm not going to say for sure I know that one of these MDOT employees did it. What I am going to say is that I think Sherlock Holmes would agree with my analysis of this. If I did not live in this car, it could be up in the air, anybody's guess. The whole 16 hours a day I'm sitting inside my home, someone could have been messing with my car. The problem is, I'm in this car all the time when I'm not at work. And I am obsessively aware of what's going on with this car at all times, including when I'm at work. And the only exception over the last few days is when I went into that gas station where I could not watch my car, parked next to these MDOT workers. The ones who were looking at me funny and sneering and, you know, basically looking like in 1920 a black man walking into a whites-only restaurant. How about it, MDOT? Are you up to the challenge? Or are you also, like every other Minnesota government agency, going to just do nothing, which seems to be your specialty? Because all I do is see these guys in these little yellow and orange jackets standing around on the phone, yapping to each other. And you know what? For 3 weeks, they've had that one little intersection torn up. China, they built a 57-story skyscraper in 19 days. A 57-story skyscraper. In 19 days, you guys have done nothing. I don't see where anything's changed at this intersection. Because your people sit around and do nothing all day. How about it, MDOT? Are you going to do something? Or are you going to join the rest of these Minnesota government agencies that have messed with me ever since I moved to this God-forsaken portal to hell called Minnesota? Are you going to check their keys and see who scratched my car? Or not?